For centuries, millions of Jews have been tortured, expelled or killed in Ukraine. In 1941, towns around Ukraine fell to the control of Hitler's Third Reich and their collaborators. In Kiev at Babi Yar, around 33,700 Jewish men, women and children were slaughtered as local families watched. Similar events were repeated in other cities until an estimated 1.5 million Jews were killed. Throughout the centuries of devastation, Ukrainian Jewish culture and practices have been literally stripped away. Even today, Ukrainian citizens still distrust the Jewish people and believe that they are actively seeking to take over the political and social circles of the Ukraine. We, who believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, have this wonderful opportunity to reach out to the Jewish people. In Isaiah 49:22, the Lord promised that He would call upon Gentile people to carry Jewish sons in their arms and Jewish daughters on their shoulders home to Israel. We can acknowledge God's prophetic promise and calling by helping them back to their roots and finally bringing them home to the land that God gave to them, the land of Israel.
The Hebrew word Aliyah means to ascend, to go up. Clearly, its significance is far more profound than geographical alone. It is a spiritual process. It is the way that a Jew comes home to the land of his ancestors, and in so doing, he comes closer to God.
I don't think the Christian world is aware of Aliyah, let alone what Aliyah means in God's plan. Since 1989, fully 1/6 of the entire population of Israel have come to the shores of this land, from the former Soviet Union, of course. In one sense, one would say, how much louder does the Lord need to shout to get the awareness of the church? Because from God's point of view, the center has always been in this land and this nation. And where else should we be looking but to Israel?
Many of us take very seriously the admonition all the way in the first book of the Bible that if you bless Abraham and his offspring, you will be blessed. And blessing their seed will bring a blessing back to the Gentiles, the Christians that do that.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is part of the unfolding of the divine plan. And it is clear from Isaiah chapter 49 that the nations of the world are meant to play a role, a critical role, in this process. God says that He will put it into their hearts to become involved and to participate in the miracle of the restoration of the people of Israel.
When I look out from my window and see 25 building cranes on the horizon of Jerusalem, it brings a little bit of a thrill to me. The Lord is building up Zion. This isn't just a spiritual reality, it's a physical reality as well that has great spiritual implications, because when you see Jerusalem restored to Jewish hands, when you see it being built up, that's the era that the Messiah will return to Jerusalem.
When the Messiah comes, the entire world will recognize God as the Creator and as the King, and the temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem. And as the prophets tell us, God's house will be a house of prayer for Israel and for all the nations. All of mankind will unite in the worship of the one true God, the God of Israel.
Making Aliyah for a Jewish family is so much more than simply emigrating. Many understand this move to be something like repatriation, a returning home. But the other side of this is the understanding that this land has been pledged by the Lord God of Israel. He says, "I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come." This is the Lord's blessing and confirmation to them that He is with them and He is faithful to keep His promises.
I've lived in this village my whole life. This is really all that I know. I met my wife here, and we have been married for 10 years. We have 2 beautiful children who I love very much. Life is difficult here in Ukraine, especially if you live in a village like this. There are no jobs to be had, and I have a hard time getting enough money so I can just feed my family. I can describe the feelings of what it is like every month when I have to worry about just making enough money to survive.
I was working at the hospital here, but during the financial crisis, I lost my job. I try not to let the children see how difficult it is to live like this. But they are getting older now, and they can see how we struggle to make it every month. Living here is not easy, especially when you're a Jew. There are many problems in Ukraine with anti-Semitism. I never knew that I was Jewish when I was a child. I didn't find this out until I was a teenager. My grandmother hid this from us because it was too dangerous to be a Jew living in Ukraine. All that I knew was that I couldn't tell anybody about this because if I did, I could be beaten or something even worse could happen.
My children have no future here in this country. They have no chance at attending a university where they can get a good education. We are too poor for this. When they finish their school, they will have to find a job, but there are no jobs around here. This is why we started to think that we need to make Aliyah and bring our children to live in Israel.
The more I thought about moving to Israel, the more I knew that it was the right decision. Just like a fish needs to live in the ocean, a Jew needs to live in Israel. In Israel, we will not be afraid anymore about people knowing that we are Jewish. This is where we belong, I'm sure of it.
The children have already started to study the Hebrew language. I am so happy and grateful that my children will have the opportunities that they deserve in their lives. The opportunity to work hard and to be able to achieve their dreams. No longer will they have to hide the fact that they are Jewish.
I'm so grateful to the Jewish Agency and to all of the people who are helping us to make Aliyah. If it were not for them, moving to Israel wouldn't be possible. For the first time in my life, I'm starting to understand what it means to be a Jew. And I know in my heart that I will be living in the place where I belong, the land of Israel.
You know, Dmitry and his family live under difficult circumstances while they await their return to Israel. God willing, they will make Aliyah in the coming months and can be free to live without the fear of their neighbours finding out that they are Jewish. Please help us to help more families like this scattered throughout remote communities in Ukraine. You and I can help. Let's do it.
Unfortunately, anti-Semitism still exists in Ukraine. We have experienced this twice now at our Jewish day school here in Kiev. The first event was 2 years ago, when they tried to burn our school down. The second, just yesterday, when these vandals painted horrible things on our school walls. The children here are traumatized by this. I saw one of our boys leaving school after this, and he took off his kippah. His friend said to him, "What are you doing? You think by doing this they will think you're not Jewish? Everybody knows you are a Jew."
Anti-Semitism does not come from the government here in Ukraine. It is in the people's hearts. It is from the years of teachings that the Jew is bad. It is said that it comes so naturally to so many people to hate the Jews. The children in the school here are so full of love. They don't understand all this hatred throughout the world.
Many Jews in Ukraine hide the fact that they are Jewish. They're afraid of what can happen if their neighbors find out. These people live in fear every day just because they are Jewish. They don't practice their Judaism and they have lost their Jewish identity.
I never told anyone that I was Jewish. I want my children to be able to grow up without all of this hatred around them. I want them to be free and not to be afraid of who they are.
When a Jew makes Aliyah, they have the opportunity to live in their own country, in their own land. They can be proud of who they are and can be free to practice their Judaism. In Israel, they will never have to hide who they are ever again. There is no place in this world for all this hatred towards the Jewish people.
My husband and I made Aliyah 8 months ago, and our daughter was born in Israel 2 months later. We're living in an absorption center in Ashdod, where my husband is in a special program for doctors. He's taking classes so that he can practice medicine in Israel.
It had always been my dream to practice medicine, and in Israel I will be able to get a good job doing what I love the most, helping people.
Living in Ukraine was very difficult. My family faced anti-Semitism on a daily basis. People painted terrible things on our house, like "Die Jew" and "Jews should be killed." It was a terrible way to live. My life changed when I took a trip to Poland to visit Auschwitz. That day my heart died, and I decided that I cannot live in Ukraine anymore. I knew that the only place that I could really be a Jew and live like one is in Israel. When I returned to Ukraine, I spoke to my husband about this, and we decided to make Aliyah.
My family was not religious and did not practice Judaism. When I first told them that we would move to Israel, they thought I was crazy. They'd ask, "Why would you leave your country and move to a place so far away?" I tried to explain to them that this is where the Jews needed to be, but they really could not understand this. But I knew in my heart that this was the right decision, that Israel is where I wanted to live.
Life is very different here. I feel like I'm a part of something much bigger. I feel a closeness to the people here that I never felt living in Ukraine. Really, I feel like I've come home. Here I'm a whole person where I can be a Jew and practice my traditions.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוקינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת הקודש.
Amen.
I love to celebrate the Shabbat. It gives me a feeling like I belong to Israel. It is such a warm time to spend with my family. I'm also very proud of myself for how much I have learned about my religion. I'm a different person now. My heart is filled with love and happiness, and I have so much hope for the future of my family.
I want to thank all of the people and agencies that have helped us to make Aliyah. If it were not for them, our return to our homeland would not have been possible. It is because of this that our lives are so full of hope and joy.
Isn't it wonderful to see families like this succeeding as they begin a new chapter in their lives once they have moved to Israel? What a blessing for Christians to be a part of God's plan by helping to bring His people home. Israel grows and prospers as Jews return here and become active in society. Just as God said to Isaac in Genesis 26, "Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and your descendants I give all these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father, and I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven." We see that the restoration is all part of God's plan. It is eternal and it is inclusive. You and I can assist in this plan and help stop the years of suffering for the Jewish people. Thank you for watching this program. Shalom, peace be with you, and may God bless you as you bless His people.